Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions, the mystery of Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. For 5,000 years, Stonehenge has stood on Salisbury Plain in southern England. Built in multiple phases between approximately 3000 and 1500 BC, it consists of massive sarsen megaliths weighing up to 25 metric tons hauled from 25 miles away, and smaller bluestones transported from Wales, nearly 250 miles distant. Every alignment points with astronomical precision to the solstice, sunrise, and sunset. Every generation has had its theory: Druid temple, astronomical calendar, place of healing, monument to the dead. Over the past 2 decades, a convergence of archaeological, genetic, and environmental evidence has begun to fill in the picture. What we now know is both more concrete and more surprising than anything previous generations imagined. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the global puzzle of unexplained ancient construction, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Catastrophism, the idea that Earth's geological and cultural history has been shaped by sudden, violent events rather than gradual processes, was once the dominant paradigm in science. It was then largely displaced by uniformitarianism, the principle, championed by Charles Lyell in the 19th century, that the present is the key to the past, and that change occurs slowly and continuously. The pendulum has since swung back. Modern geology and astronomy have confirmed that catastrophic events, asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, rapid climate shifts, have profoundly shaped Earth's surface and life upon it. The Chicxulub impact that ended the Cretaceous is the most famous example, but it is not alone. The Younger Dryas cooling event 12,000 years ago caused radical shifts in human habitat within decades, not millennia. The Bronze Age collapse 3,000 years ago ended multiple interconnected civilizations in a generation. These events matter for archaeology because they reset the evidence. A major catastrophe does not merely destroy a civilization, it destroys the record of that civilization. Survivors carry only what they can remember, and memory degrades with each generation. After a few centuries, the grandchildren of survivors have myths where their grandparents had engineering manuals. What archaeologists find when they excavate ancient sites is not the full picture. It is the fragment that survived the last catastrophe. The full picture may be forever gone, preserved only in the ambiguous traces that puzzle researchers to this day. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Stonehenge was built in multiple phases. Phase 1, around 3000 BC, was a circular earthwork with 56 pits, Aubrey holes, that may have held timber posts or bluestones. Phase 2, around 2500 BC, saw the first stone construction. Phase 3, around 2400–2200 BC, saw the erection of the massive sarsen stones. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen. Instruments malfunction. Researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the bluestones transported from the Preseli Hills in Wales 250 miles away are one of archaeology's great transport puzzles. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that the stones could have been moved on wooden sledges and watercraft along a route combining overland and coastal transport. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Astronomical alignments at Stonehenge are well established. The monument is precisely oriented to mark the midwinter sunset and the midsummer sunrise. The avenue, a ceremonial earthwork approaching the monument, aligns with the same axis, confirming deliberate solar orientation, requiring knowledge accumulated over generations. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, excavations have revealed extensive evidence of feasting, ceremony, and human remains spanning the monument's entire period of use. Cremated human bones from the Aubrey holes represent at least 63 individuals interred over a 500-year period. Stonehenge was, at least in part, a cemetery for special individuals. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of Durrington Walls, 2 miles from Stonehenge, was a massive settlement of perhaps several thousand PO, occupied seasonally during midwinter ceremonies. The site contains enormous quantities of animal bone consistent with large feasts, confirming Stonehenge as a focus for regional gatherings. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. Genetic analysis of ancient individuals buried near Stonehenge showed they descended from Neolithic farmers who arrived from Anatolia around 4000 BC. A subsequent genetic shift, around 2500 BC, corresponds with the arrival of the Beaker culture from continental Europe. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. Equally puzzling to investigators, recent research proposed Stonehenge may have functioned as a place of healing, a prehistoric Lourdes. Skeletal analysis shows an unusual proportion of individuals with injuries and diseases, and isotope analysis shows many had traveled significant distances to reach the site. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. we are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that Stonehenge was a ceremonial and mortuary monument used for midwinter solstice ceremonies involving veneration of ancestors. The midwinter alignment, the cremated remains, and the feasting evidence at Durrington Walls all converge on a monument where communities gathered to honor the dead and celebrate the turning of the year. This is currently the most evidence-supported interpretation. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence. But it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Stonehenge functioned as a place of healing, a pilgrimage destination for the sick and injured from across Neolithic Britain. The bluestones in particular may have been credited with healing properties, explaining the enormous effort of their transport from Wales. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that Stonehenge served multiple purposes across its thousand-year construction history: cemetery, seasonal gathering place, healing shrine, and astronomical marker. Its meaning changed as the society that maintained it changed, and no single interpretation captures its full significance. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes isotopic analysis of cremated remains from the Aubrey holes shows some individuals spent their lives in the region of the Preseli Hills in Wales, the source of the bluestones, suggesting people most closely associated with the monument's construction were among its first interments. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented skeletal analysis of 59 individuals buried near Stonehenge shows that 22 had signs of illness or injury, and many had isotope profiles inconsistent with the local Salisbury Plain geology, confirming they traveled significant distances to the site. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the Durrington Walls settlement, dated to 2500 BC and linked to Stonehenge by the River Avon and a timber circle, provides direct evidence of the scale of human activity associated with the monument. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Stonehenge is now one of the most studied archaeological sites in the world. The Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes Project has used ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry to map the surrounding landscape without excavation, revealing dozens of previously unknown monuments. Each year, new discoveries refine our understanding. What seemed inexplicable for centuries is slowly revealing itself through careful archaeology, not as the work of aliens or giants, but as the extraordinary achievement of Neolithic farming communities whose organizational sophistication we are only beginning to appreciate. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of Stonehenge, England's greatest mystery solved, from the historical record through the physical evidence, across the competing theories and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Stonehenge ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process, and the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.